Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Hermit, and we've sort of morphed into a little bit of New Age still. How to discern it, and how do you handle New Age? We're not just talking devil now, but just New Age can be very pernicious and persistent. And people who get duped by it or intrigued by it, and they deny that it's New Age because they see truths in it. And you explain, yes, there are truths. Truths are included in it, but it doesn't make it valid or good for us. Sit down, lovey. Sit, 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 sit. So I realized I did find the temptations of Jesus, the three temptations, Matthew, I think it's Matthew 4. Let me see here. Yeah, Matthew 4, 1 through 11. Three temptations in the desert of Jesus. And it's good to know these things because we're going to be involved with people in our lives, and some not meaning to, well-intentioned, or out sort of exploring their religious beliefs, philosophies, ideologies, or trends. People out there in trends. I remember in the 80s and 90s, Campbell. I even remember his first name now, see? Joseph Campbell. Big trend. He had New Age plus Buddhism plus left Christianity for the most part, but would still weave it in. And I felt lost because I couldn't find people like me. So I thought, well, maybe Eastern religion. But that had New Age in it. Joseph Campbell did. He was dropped away from Catholicism. Got into that. Selling books, selling videos, being interviewed. And he had an academic and I think art or antiquities background, something like that. But now, no, who's buying him? Who's listening to? He's deceased, but over and done. That's how these trends go. But I quickly realized that wasn't for me, but God was telling me Catholicism. So I started praying, well, what's your church? Just wanted the church that Jesus founded. I was tired of all these other people founding this movement, this trend, this church, Protestant churches, Christian Scientism, Mary Baker Eddy, evangelical churches were starting to pop up, started by this man or that man, usually very charismatic. Billy Graham didn't start a church. That was refreshing, but he was wonderful. What a great Christian. A preacher, an evangelist. That was his role. That was his assignment on earth, and he did it well. And his son Franklin is carrying on with the Samaritan's Purse, with helping people, Christians helping other people of all faiths or circumstances. But the devil, these are the three temptations and the types they are. The physical temptation, which essentially is do what feels right. After fasting for 40 days, Jesus was understandably hungry. So the devil tempted him with food, bread. The emotional temptation, we can start to question God's love, or the world even tempting, God's power, God's, or the devil, the world to tempt God to cast himself off the pinnacle. God will save you. You will have power, all that. That's emotional. the control temptation to take over the throne of God. That he the aspect that we can be as God and be on the throne. And so that's a control temptation, wanting control and power. And that happens a lot to people with wanting answers, wanting things to be beautiful, everything loving, everything, idyllic. And a new age often will promise that. Or going back in history, this man that had influenced a viewer, going back in history and making it seem like all the religions back there were all love and they all got together and they were all unified. No one was against everyone. Churches and religion then was all one in God and one in love. Well, the Mayan sacred text was, so wonderful, and love and compassion and caring about others. Well, human sacrificed their babies, burned them as human sacrifices. That was a Mayan thing, and the Vikings, every culture on the world back then, the Greeks, they all had their religions. They had their philosophies, they had their gods or mythologies, they had their creation stories. And if they met up with another that didn't believe that, kill them. That's why so many early Christians were killed, because people of other religious beliefs and would kill them because they, wanted, theirs was the only right one. No, it wasn't all love and peace and, the hippies wanted that in the late 60s, and we're on earth, and we're all sinners. And I had to learn that even with Catholicism. At first, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. So much shown me, and I was accepted. I mean, I knew I was, had mystics. At least I could read about them, and I kept thinking I'd find lots in the parish church, because the priest had waved his arm over there and said, you're, the church is filled with mystics. Well, no, not filled with it, but there are some. And, many of them are dead. At least the dead ones I can find in books easily. And they're friends. They'll help me, and they do. So, and then others I'm finding through here. But the control temptation is a big one. And, the devil basically, ultimately, is all about worshiping Satan, but doesn't present it to a Christian that way or to anyone that way. Most people know that worshiping the devil's bad. Now, for witches and Wiccas and devil worshippers, that's okay. The devil has them already. But for everyone else, like this viewer, is this man, I think, who's talking, this Greg Baden, his last name, or Baden or something like Braden. And there's another guy on, just in doing my research, they talk about some other guy who's same kind of stuff. There's many out there online now who are, even think they're a Christian, but bring in all this other stuff that isn't Christianity. And they like, they're selling their stuff. This other guy is selling everything from vitamins to his books to his talks, podcast, anything he can think of to sell, he sells. And then people are listening to him and spending time. And it's not Christian, but he introduces it with that aspect included. It's very deceptive, very seductive too, and very appealing, especially to young people who want something that is beautiful and loving and easy and no evil and feels good. That's the feel good one too. Do what feels good. Do what feels right. even though it isn't, even it takes work to discern. So, the sources of these three temptations that run through all of our lives too, of the world, the flesh, temptations of the world, temptations of the flesh, and temptations of the devil. And that those equate with physical temptation, emotional temptation, and control temptation. That we want control over things. We don't want to feel like we're out just floating, not in control. So the world, the flesh, and the devil. But there are, let me get to this other part here. There's this saint that I found very helpful this morning. Well, I've already mentioned, I want to get back to this New Age thing, how you can sort of tell if you yourself are sort of caught up into it a little bit or a lot, or someone else is, and someone else is, wanting to get you in. They want company because there's part of them that they know it's not right, but if they can get other people to go along with them, misery wants company kind of thing. But then when you don't go along with them and you start pointing out the realities or discern for them and point out, well, this isn't accurate, or this person speaking and telling you these things doesn't have any kind of credible backing to be speaking. His theories, his ideologies have been debunked by credible scientists. He's not educated at any reputable school. His degree is very flimsy and nebulous. Don't know any specifics about it. And what he says when interviewed, he squirms around to get out of direct questions that would cause him to not be able to prove what he's saying. And I picked up ego, that he wanted to be important. He's older, maybe in my age range, but he looks a lot younger, of course, most do. But there was a doctor online, an MD, who was claiming that he had the cure for arachnoiditis and was saying things that weren't right, that any of the major clinics, any studies that had been done, which aren't a lot of studies, but solid ones, from major medical hospitals, medical centers, and neurologists and neurosurgeons. And this general practitioner was retired, and I think his heart wanted to help people, but he started saying how, he had a means to heal people of arachnoiditis, and just supplements and vitamins and diet, things that he started selling then. Wasn't Gundry. He's another one who's gotten into all that, claiming all these healings from, just buy his products. And he's on YouTube, and he's, gets a lot of attention from people. He has testimonials, and he's just become a snake oil salesman and a laughing stock. But, it was retirement age. He didn't want to give up, and he wanted to be great. So did this GP. He didn't want to die without making a mark, really having impact. The devil got in with the ego, the pride, the world, be important in the world. And this other man who's talking about DNA discovery he's made that's, totally revolutionary. And of course, all the scientists have debunked it, the ones with doctorates and on, beyond doctorates, and very reputable, credible in the field. None of the colleagues is they call this guy another American crackpot. So here's this viewer, though, who's gotten very enthralled. And he's got New Age stuff in his talks. So, but then I've gone through with this viewer then the telltale signs of someone who's caught up in it. So at first it was, the little red flag I've heard. See, I've been through this with New Age people. I even had a doctor in my hometown who from India, and he moved away then, but he was flirting around with it and then got very involved in it. And he'd been Catholic, but then he ended up very into Sufism, but also New Age. Older man, wanting to heal people. We all, I'd ask God for the gift of healing because we see suffering, and he was a very compassionate doctor, but it just doesn't work that way. So we just don't, you can't just go find some other religion and then add New Age and these temptations by the devil of the world or of God being God that you can heal. Yes, you can heal, and here's how, do it. Follow this path, follow that path, eat these foods, think these certain thoughts. Your mind can do it. Well, maybe, yes, with God's grace, or maybe our minds or our faith aren't at that point yet. Christ got a little frustrated with the apostles. He had taught them all these things that weren't written down, that I wish we knew, but they were probably beyond being able to easily write. But their faith wasn't strong enough yet. But eventually, after he died, even they grew in faith, and then they were able to heal. Peter healed people, cast out demons. They were all martyred, but John's mission was to write and to receive revelations and to write those. And so it's not necessarily going to come to everyone. It depends on God's will, his purpose for us, and I think comes down to our faith. But we can't just will our faith either or make it happen. And we can't become impatient then and just drop Christianity or think that this is Christianity and get off into into stuff that is say a soup with you think it has a good base to it, but they've poured a lot of other stuff in it that's not good, that isn't Christianity. So, and then you're eating it all and being deceived. And then, when push comes to shove, you have to admit, well, yes, I do. I get tempted every day by the devil, but I just pick myself up and move on. Well, yes, that's what we all do. That's what we have to do. We can't get stuck in by the devil. Can't fall to his temptations. Even when we do fall, get tricked. Confess, do penance, make reparations for things we've done wrong, and then move on. And pray we don't get tricked again. The devil will try, though, at other levels, other means. So there was that, the thing. Then there started to be the, well, keep an open mind. That was a point. Here we go. Then there was, I forget what the response was, well, I offended you. No, I wasn't offended by the New Age stuff. Then there was denials and trying to explain, no, that picked out the truths that the man talked about. Well, so they were truths. But then tried to bring in this misconception that it was all glory back then in the Mayan times, that all people were one, they were all religious. They weren't discriminating against other religions. Everyone got together. It was essentially heaven on earth. But today, we're always divisive. We're always against. It isn't love and compassion and empathy. Well, part of that was directed at me because I wasn't buying into this guy and what he had to peddle and what he was saying. I did my research of this American crackpot was what he was being called by credible people, credible, educated scientists, theologians, who'd checked him out. And, just seeing that his books were published by Hay Publishing. Louise Hayes, she started her own publishing for her own New Age stuff. She's a known New Age, and she doesn't hide it. Louise Hay doesn't, which I think is admirable. If you're New Age, say it. There's plenty of people who don't mind. They don't have anything else. But I'm a Christian, so why would I? And I think this person thinks she's Christian, or at some time was. I guess I don't really know when people, view things and talk, but she liked everything I was saying up until I wouldn't go along with this. So what she liked, what she thought would be just such a great gift and I'd really love, because they want company. They want someone else to justify what they're seeing and doing and listening to, which deep down inside, God's still trying to say, no, this isn't. Or something in them sort of knows subconsciously, or they wouldn't want others to validate what they're watching and to say, oh, yes, oh, that's great, yes. They don't want to be alone with it. In Christianity, you can be alone with it. It it won't bother because it's truth. So then comes the other aspects of then starting to put you down, putting the other person down. And so that was today. That kind of feedback, and then of sarcastic putting down. Oh, well, all to me, you know all these things. You know everything there is to know about Christ. I was wrong. You won, I lost. That, oh, poor me kind of stuff, and trying to guilt trip or put it on me that I was a know-it-all. No, but I know New Age. I've experienced it. So I've been writing back. But I'm putting a stop. There's, this last video I did is about, we have to make choices. So, with these temptations that New Age tries, and then the people that get hooked in it, I don't think this person is hooked, hook, line, and sinker, but the hook's in the mouth, obviously drawn to it and deceived by part of it, and isn't wanting to let go of it either. But, we all make choices. And I'm Christian. I'm for Christ. I'm on the narrow path. So, this morning I was feeling guilty. Maybe I was too firm, too harsh. But there does come a time when you just have to say, no, that's enough now. Be on your way. I'll pray for you. I love you. I forgive you for, getting involved in this. Sorry for you to do that. And of course, we'll pray that everyone gets away from that deception. Or if you're choosing to research and to explore New Age, all the different religions, the philosophies, the ideologies, and that's how you want to spend your time, listening to all these different things and people with their different ideas and their own philosophies, go ahead. But good luck trying to get a solid Christian to go in with it, or a solid Jewish person, or, when people have chosen, if it's truth, beauty, goodness, if God is solid in it, and the Holy Spirit, and as Christians, Christ is in it, and you're where God wants you to be, and you know it, you're not out there nibbling on other hooks and other worms on other hooks. You're on the narrow path. You're not wandering on a broad road anymore. And so it may seem like we're being very harsh, and then there comes a time when you're not going to put out any more time on it. No more talking, no more writing back, no more explaining. And I have found it good just to be very open and honest and explain, this is what you're doing. You're trying this pathetic, pity me, be the martyr. Before it was trying to guilt me. The comment back was trying to guilt me. And before that, it was trying to show that, oh, well, you don't know, though. But I do know. Not because I'm a know-it-all, but because I've been it through with New Agers for years, off and on. The devil keeps, I guess, trying to see if I'll nibble. I don't know. But, what the devil's trying to do. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But I know when it's in front of me, and I just won't have anything to do with it. And that's the correct response. I try to help the person in conversation for a while, up to a point. But, and then, God is helping me with this situation, because I feel bad for the person. But, when it got to this latest one of, the sarcasm and all, that's an old trick of the devil, old trick, the sarcasm and the martyrdom of the person. Oh, you win, I've lost. You know it all. You know everything, what's best for my life, all the things that, everything about Christ, and you know what's best for my life and how I should think and what I should do, and, what is that? Playing the martyr, I guess it would be. And pushing it off on me, this exaggerated, I don't know, wanting me to get angry. I'm not angry. I just see it. That's all. From experience, not because I'm any great seer. I just have been through it with others. It's how they operate. Even that doctor that was into Sufism and wanted to get me intrigued in that, and warning me about Catholicism, and because he had been, and no one was going along with it. He finally moved out of town. Wasn't getting any disciples. He was, and then he came on to me. I always was having that trouble when I was younger. They were intrigued by me. They saw something in me they thought was weak, but no, I'd already been tricked. Once was enough. Once by a worldling, and a second time by a Christian. And no, so I was done being tricked by men and women. I mean, not. Well, I had one lesbian after me, but no, I'm not sexually, but by women in other ways, tricking. And then all the New Age stuff and other aspects of the three facets of temptations. We just gotta stay sharp. Stay sharp. Be alert. Like Jesus says, be alert that the devil is prowling about seeking the ruination of souls. Always prowling about, he says. So here's this saint for the day. Theodosius the Cenobiarch, or Theodosius the Great, a 5th century, born in 423, died around 529. Another site said, I think 405 or 505, but he was a Cappadocian Christian monk, abbot, and saint who was a founder and organizer of the Cenobitic way of monastic life in the Judean desert. His feast day is the 11th today. So God was sending me reinforcement because I was feeling like, am I being too harsh on this person? Am I, not kind enough, not patient enough? Have I turned the person off and when God maybe didn't want me to? Maybe he wanted me to hang in there with the person and try to get the person more back into Christianity alone, or to pick and choose wisely what you're listening to. This man out there on the internet is not one to listen to if you're a Christian. If you want quality and if you want reliability, credibility, and smart, intelligent, logic. If you don't want to get taken buying all this stuff. So the early life of this Theodosius, he was born in a village in Cappadocia, which was St. Basil's province. Theodosius's parents were both very pious. Later, his mother, Eulogia, would become a nun, taking her son, Theodosius, as her spiritual father. After his father died, his mother became a nun and took her own son, who by then was into his spiritual life, took him as her spiritual director. When he was younger, he felt a desire to imitate Abraham by leaving his parents, friends, relatives, and everything else for the love of God. Theodosius set out for Jerusalem at the time of the Holy Fourth Ecumenical Council of Chalcedon, held in 451. So let's see, he would have been 27 years old then, or 26. That's correct. Yeah. When Theodosius reached Antioch, he went to see St. Simeon the Stylite. Run into him again. Remember, St. Simeon, I forget what his name was, the younger one, also admired St. Simeon the Stylite and became his spiritual son. Just had him the other day, and he's the one that I'm so connected with, but I can't remember his last name, or the name attributed to him, but it's not the Stylites. The St. Simeon the Stylite was known by all over the place, older man, to ask for his prayers and blessing. Arriving at the pillar of St. Simeon, he was miraculously... Oh, St. Simeon the Stylite. No, this is the one that was on the style, not St. Simeon the Studite. Okay, this is the third one, the third St. Simeon, who lived up on a stile. That was his mortification. And when he arrived at the pillar of St. Simeon, the Stylite, he was miraculously greeted by name and was invited to ascend the column. Theodosius climbed the pillar and prostrated himself before St. Simeon, who embraced him with his blessing and prophesied great spiritual glory for Theodosius. Well, I'm glad to... I had always I wondered how the Stylite had lived up there, because they would literally, bucket food up to him and bucket his defecation and urine down. But he obviously had a platform up there. He was up on a column, a pillar, but with a platform big enough for Theodosius to lay down, prostrate himself. So when Theodosius reached Jerusalem, Um, he spent time visiting and venerating the holy places. He then decided it would be best to obtain discipline for himself before he settled in solitude. Theodosius began his monastic labors under the hermit abbot Longinus, settling near the Tower of David. During this time, there lived a wealthy and pious woman named Aequilia, who built a church near a place called the Old Kathisma and dedicated it to the Theotokos, the Mother of God, God-bearer, Virgin Mary. Aequilia requested to the elder Longinus that Theodosius settle in that place, to which he agreed. After some time, Theodosius had many visitors and pilgrims who distracted and deprived him of his solitude. Eventually, Theodosius could no longer handle his admirers and left the old Katharina so that he could better dedicate himself to God. He settled on the peak of the mountain and lived in a cave. This is out in the Judean, the Jerusalem desert, that area, Judean. There is a tradition from the ancient fathers that this was the same cave the three magi spent the night after they had worshipped the Lord, and that an angel was sent there and ordered them to return to their own country by another way, which they did. So, these places are really there where these events occurred. The Magi spent the night, and this is where the angel appeared to them and warned them. While dwelling in the cave that had been where the three Magi had been at one point in time, Theodosius performed great feats of asceticism. He prayed at all times, and he was even suspended a rope that it might prop him up in case sleep overcame him. And thus he stood through the night in prayer. He remembered never to satisfy his hunger, but ate only enough so that he would not fall ill from extreme fasting. He ate only dates, carob, wild vegetables, and legumes soaked in water. If the land was unproductive and arid, he soaked the hearts of palms and ate them only from excessive need. He never tasted bread for 30 years. Theodosius formed a small community of monks near Bethlehem, which later became the monastery of Theodosius. The community grew rapidly with monks of several cultures and languages, and became very well known for its work with the sick, elderly, and mentally impaired. When Theodosius' friend and countryman, Sabas, was appointed archimandrite of all the isolated monks in Palestine by the Patriarch Sallustius of Jerusalem, Theodosius was made the leader of all those monks who lived in community. This is the origin of his being called Cenobiarch, which translates as chief among those living a life in common. The anti-Miaphistic stance in Maronite tradition. Theodosius was a staunch opponent of Miaphysitism, which caused the Emperor Anastasius to remove him from office temporarily. A Maronite tradition has it that when Theodosius was at the age of 90, he was exiled by Emperor Anastasius, who was fighting a Chalcedonian orthodoxy, and took refuge in Lebanon, where he established the monastery of Canubin, common living, in Kadisha Valley. Now, this Miaphysitism was a heresy at the time. Like New Age is a heresy of our time period. And it runs the gamut of subtle, small little bits of misinformation and wrong ideology, not good theology, just little bits of it, to larger amounts, to severe New Age, to witchcraft kinds of things. So that's why it is so insidious. is that it isn't, and it doesn't have, like in the earlier centuries, like this was the 5th century, late 4th, early 5th, no, 5th century and early 6th, because he died in early 500s. All the different heresies had different names. But New Age is a blanket. And so in that way, even, I think it's harder to fight against it or to convince people, because it can be just a tiny little heresy, tiny little example. But this is how I knew that the Lord was with me on this. He was a staunch opponent of it, even to the point of being exiled. But even when he took refuge elsewhere, he fled and took refuge elsewhere in Lebanon, in another country, he established himself there among Christians, and Christians gathered. He did not waver, even under the threat of probably threat of being killed. So he just left. And then he died there. So I knew, just even by reading this and this man and his life, and he did not waver, but he prayed, he loved, and he opposed what was wrong. And all of them, of course, tried to get people to see, to understand. But the New Age people are convinced that they're right, and they keep trying to convince. Like, well, the Torah is not New Age. Well, I never said it was. But then, when you get into this point where there's sarcasm and laying guilt trips or playing the martyr and all that, it just gets silly. And, and then I feel sorry for the person then, but nothing's going to satisfy unless I would capitulate and say, well, yes, you're right. Wonderful. I'm so excited. Doggies. Oh. Just stop. They see a dog. They see a dog and a man walking. This is huge. They're animals. I expect that of them. But once again, us, if we have chosen, and I have chosen Christ, and Christ alone, God, the Holy Spirit, and I'm Catholic, Protestant, I've been Protestant, I'm not opposed at all to anything Christian. I look at it as a gradation of truths of more and more and more. And for me, I wanted the church that Jesus founded. That does not, and this is what Jesus founded. And that's why I can go back into history and have all that Jesus founded in it. Yes, over time, humans also added, but nothing that is out of line of Christianity. Externals, temporal, things they thought would help encourage people in devotion and prayer and all. Fine. And even the saints, they're very clear. You don't have to believe there are miracles or anything about them if you don't want, but they're there as encouragements. For me, they are there as friends, and they saved me from vast confusion as to what was wrong with me. These mystics did. So I finally have my niche, my place. I'm not leaving it. I learned that I'm not really acceptable in parishes. That wasn't what God wanted. And he had shown me that at the very beginning. I didn't take it literally. So my bad, I've corrected it now. But I'm done with dealing with the person who's upset. That's just another signal to me, because I've had that before with people. They get frustrated then if you won't go along with them. And Christians don't react that way. So I'm praying, I pray, love, forgive, and I'm living my Christian life. That's what I've chosen. Other people choose other. And I want quality in my Christian life also. I would seek out the best that I can find, that I can ascertain through research, the best books to read, the best things to listen to. And as far as me, I'm sharing my life. I never thought people would, I thought maybe one or two people or something, but I'm just sharing my experiences, hoping that what I've done, including my many, many flaws and faults, will help others not to make them. And also in this bit about New Age and devil, this is how it goes. This is sort of the trajectory of validation then, when someone's into it, how they react, if you don't go along with it. So, or embarrass them, I guess, because the devil works on pride in them. So they get embarrassed if you point out the flaws of it. Not the flaws in them, but they get embarrassed because they fell for it, but they don't want to admit it. So it gets very complex. And we only have so much time, and I need to devote now to other things. So, and I have somebody else from the past that I want to read about, and what he wrote, beautiful. So I'll do that in another video. And I want to continue on with the gifts of the Holy Spirit. I have to find my clipboard that has where I left off on the different gifts of the Holy Spirit. So God bless his real presence in us, and love people, love, 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 pray, forgive, keep going, and stay on the narrow path. Narrow path, if that's what I've chosen anyway. Most of you have. God bless. Keep going. Keep going forward.